Okay, in this track, there's some pretty cool, or what I think are cool, pentatonic ideas. It's going to be in the key of C sharp minor, I think, and yeah, I mean, there's going to be some, fairly classic sort of stuff to start with. Some of the very first things that I learnt when I was, when I picked up the guitar were things like being able to sort of like bend, and add in like your little finger to add in like other notes, this kind of thing, a lot of palm muting downstrokes to sort of power through pentatonics. Being able to play those kind of double stop bends, I think they're known as. It's a very sort of, again, Zakk Wylde, Nuno Bettencourt, Slash, all those kind of players do those kind of things, which I always thought sounded, really cool, really aggressive way to kind of start a solo. So I guess that sort of stuck with me, and sometimes I like to, pull it out every now and again. And yeah, so we're starting off with that. And kind of letting it down. It almost sounds country in a way. If it was like an E major pentatonic. But yeah, that kind of vibe anyway. So letting it down again, and then just playing into a note, getting some vibrato. You can add in some pinch harmonics there. For any of you that aren't really familiar with pinch harmonics, you can get that effect by picking the string fairly hard, but as you're kind of pulling out, the side of your thumb is grazing the note, giving it a higher pitch. So you can hardly see the pick really as how you're playing it. Adds quite a nice dynamic to it, which are all things that make the guitar such a wonderful instrument to play, basically, because you can get all these weird and wonderful sounds out of it just by how you approach the guitar, how you pick, how you use the flesh on your hands, all that kind of stuff. So after that, I mean, there's using, like I said earlier, using down picks with palm muting. It's a very effective way of playing pentatonics, especially if you're playing slower, but you want to kind of power through the scale. So this kind of thing. I mean, you can even practice it with pentatonic scales. And then you can start to mix it up with changing up the strokes just to be able to, get through the scale with ease. But it's actually quite a cool sounding thing to do. And if you apply that to a more arpeggio shape, you can get this kind of thing. And then if you want to add in some, like a powerful trill in there, you can just accent. So, so it's all about picking where you want to accent and all that kind of stuff, just to break up what you're playing, basically, to make it sound a bit more kind of rocking. I mean, most rock guitar players do have that kind of approach. Guys like Doug Aldrich, they're really good at that kind of style, down picking and just making all the notes pop out. Nuno Bettencourt again, all those guys. I mean, these are all guys that are kind of rock players, but I tend to find that a lot of this expression that, I like to use in my own playing isn't necessarily something that I associate with metal guitar. It's more things that I associate with rock guitar players. I mean, metal guitar is slightly more harsh, there's a bit more top end in the sound, and it's more about aggression and less about, trying to create nuance and some sort of, I don't know, feel. I mean, that's only my perception of it. I mean, that's not, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I do find that, rock guitar, for things like phrasing, bending, all those different things that you would want in your own playing, well, that I would think you want in your own playing, come from more of a rock thing. I mean, I'm more from a rock background anyway, you know, with the things that I used to listen to growing up. You know, it wasn't until much later I started getting into metal players and metal bands and all that kind of stuff. So what I bring to the table is more of a kind of rock approach to playing metal, which I kind of think it works quite well that way around. Metal into rock might not work the same way, but I'm not doing it that way around. So, okay. So after that, I think there's some tapping in there as well, which is pretty cool things to, some cool stuff to do. You're basically just taking the first position pentatonic scale, and then just adding in some taps on the 16th fret and doing a bit of string skipping. You know, it's just not a terribly difficult technique to do, but I guess if you're not watching someone do it and you hear it, it is one of those things where you think, oh, you know, what's going on there? That sounds like really technical. But really all you're doing is you're playing the first position pentatonic with your left hand and then just tapping the same fret. The only problem that you might have with licks like this is just the string skipping element of it and trying to keep it as clean as possible. You could always get a groove gear fret wrap and stick that on your guitar, and you can still hear like open strings and stuff if you have it right down on the nut, but it really does help with any kind of extraneous vibrations that you might get through playing any of these tapping licks. I like to use them on 7 strings because you have got that extra low B on there, and that does like to vibrate, so it likes to be heard by different people, so you try and silence it with using something like that. Again, it's, you know, it's no different than using an overdrive pedal to boost your amp or a noise gate to cut out any unwanted harmonics and that in between playing, especially playing with a lot of gain, which, you know, in metal you tend to do. So it's just another tool really to get your performance across. So yeah, I think the lick goes. So it's pretty consistent up until the B string, and then it just comes back on itself. Into a bend on the 12th fret on the B string, and then adding in the 12th fret on the high string. Again, we're kind of applying that same rock approach, just to the next set of strings. Some other cool things that I like to do is like a single note melodies, but playing, you know, with a bit more aggression, like, you know, pinch harmonics and sliding into the note. You know, it kind of gives it a bit more of a rock feel than just going. You know, notice I'm actually kind of snapping the string a lot more with the right hand to get more aggression and more attitude in what I'm playing. You know, maybe just kind of practice using notes within that scale, just picking out all the pentatonic notes from the 5 positions in the key of C sharp minor. You know, if you wanted to create a little bit more attitude, you can use notes on the D string to sort of slide up into the notes on the G string. But you're not really hearing them, it's more of an expression than an actual definite note that you're playing. The cool thing about guitar is you can get away with making, you know, having like ghost notes in things and stuff like that, that really adds the attitude of the actual note that you're trying to play. So you're not really hearing those notes. You know, it's quite a cool effect. And then continuing down, you know, I'm playing some more rock pentatonics. I mean, I feel like this backing track made me want to play quite aggressive, so I guess that's why I've had that kind of approach towards playing this kind of lead. Okay, there's some cool arpeggio stuff that I want to share with you that featured in this song. Something which I've kind of been working on fairly recently is my ability to you know, naturally be able to throw in like sweep picking licks and stuff like that using arpeggios, because before it's been more of a premeditated thing where I've sat down and gone, right, if I'm going to put like arpeggios and certain sequences into a song, I at least probably figure them out before playing. But you know, predominantly because a lot of these solos that I've done over these backing tracks are in actual fact improvised. You know, we've kind of sat down and gone, right, you know, let's get the vibe of the track. You know, I spent time with it obviously because I recorded it all myself on the laptop and stuff. And then, yeah, basically just kind of going for it and just seeing what comes out really. Sometimes when you do that, you surprise even yourself what things come out. Even if it's by mistake and you kind of mess it up, and then you go back and you think, oh, actually that was pretty cool, I'm going to focus on that, which is kind of something that happened with me, you know, with sweeping. It's just kind of like figuring out how to smoothly transition between different shapes. So I mean, I've been, you know, doing string skipping for a long time because I find that's an easier way of just playing certain arpeggios. So this lick is going to look like this, and then we'll break it down afterwards. Okay, so we're starting picking on the high E string and then doing some hammer-ons and pull-offs. I'm not picking everything. Kind of, it's going to look like this with, it's just a C minor, C sharp minor. I mean, if you guys have seen any sort of string skipping lessons either from me in the past, or there's some stuff on the Academy that covers this kind of thing, then you know, you see that it does feature in my playing quite a lot. Because I just feel that it's comfortable for me to do, and it's quite a cool sounding thing. So we're starting off with that arpeggio shape. So basically just starting with that sequence and then going down and up the arpeggio. I'm going to explain a little bit why I probably use my third finger more than my little finger. A lot of people moan about it, which I don't really care about, but I kind of just feel like I need to, you know, say, well, this is why I do. I think a lot of the reason why is because, like, I find that things are just generally noisier with my little finger. Also, you know, doing this kind of thing, I feel like I've got more strength in the first three fingers, and my coordination's slightly better. I mean, that's not for the want of trying. I have tried and tried and tried, but because, you know, genetically, I guess it just wasn't meant to be, being able to play all four fingers on each string. I've just kind of made peace with that, and I've moved on, and it doesn't bother me, and it doesn't restrict me in what I want to do or how I want to express myself on guitar. You know, I've just figured out that that doesn't work for me, so I've worked around it. You know, if everybody played the same and had the same technique, then it would be pretty boring, I reckon. So anyway, that, you know, just to kind of clear that up. So yeah, I'll probably... Because if I use my little finger, somehow it drags across the B and the high E string. It's just not as clean as... So it's cleaner, it works better. It might look awkward, but so what, who cares? So yeah. Moving on from that, we're going to move into this more traditional arpeggio shape. So it's the next octave up, I guess. And we're going to sort of like sequence this coming down. So I'm going to pick, pull off. So pick, pull off, downstroke on the B string note, which is the 14th fret. Then that basically, my right hand is going to come back up, which means I'll just sweep down the rest of the lick. So that's kind of where I started to find out where my, you know, sweeping strength is in kind of dragging, pulling into the guitar. I mean, I do a lot of licks where I start on an upstroke anyway, so I feel like my picking hand is more comfortable coming into the guitar than it is, you know, going out or you know, do. So I'm basically kind of pulling in and rest stroking kind of in that manner, and it helps with the sweeping. So that will explain the next part, which is the ascending part of it. So it'll be. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking the 12th fret, 16th fret on the A, skipping over the D string, playing 13, 14 on the G, and then mirroring the same frets on the A string on the high E string, so 12, 16. So I've found a way of getting round just playing, you know, which I find incredibly awkward, and it's quite done, that whole going up and down the same kind of arpeggio. You know, so many people use that because it's a fairly basic way of just getting to grips with sweep picking. But for me, I always found it awkward, and I thought there's got to be another way which is musical. It fits with the way I play. So I figured out that I can sequence arpeggios going down, and then I can string skip going up, and combining the two has basically done that. And if I want to use that same sequence coming down as well, I can, as same as the ascending version. You know, you can do variations whether you want to use the actual full arpeggio, or you just want to string skip going up and coming down. Again, it just depends on what happens at the time. But in this given instance, I've chosen to do it the way I've shown you. And then on ascending up that arpeggio, gone up to 21, I think that is, on the high E string, and come down this shape. Okay, which is another way I've figured out of how to sweep down and possibly just sequence different arpeggios. So this is 21, 16, 17 on the B, and then 18 on the G. Down to 16, slide down to 13 on the G. All picked apart from that last slide, which is a downstroke, and then slid into that note, which allows my pick to then travel to the high E string for 16 on the high E. So again, it's the same technique, coming down half of that shape that we looked at before, down 13, down to 9 on the G, and then this shape, which is fairly standard sort of, so 13 to 9 on the G, then bar 11 on the D and A, and then 12, 9 on the low E. That kind of thing. It can get kind of messy at a slow tempo, but I kind of throw myself in the deep end, and stuff tends to sound a little bit better faster than it does slow. But I guess that's sort of how I've always learnt, which is probably not the right way to do it, but it kind of works in the long run. It's quite an awkward lick to get your head round. I mean, it's taken me a few weeks to really kind of nail this kind of thing once I discovered about my upsweeping ability. So yeah, you know, when you combine all three of those shapes that we looked at together, it kind of looks like this. Okay, the last thing I want to look at in this track is quite a cool pentatonic picking sequence, which I think can kind of break up the norm of standard pentatonic licks basically. So I'm going to play the lick and then we'll break it down. Here it is. Cool. Okay, so basically we're starting using notes from the 3rd and 2nd position minor pentatonic. So we've got 12, 16, 14, 12 on the high E string, down to 9 on the high E string, and then we're just going to play groups of 5 coming down 1st position using notes of the 2nd position pentatonic. So we've got so that's that lick so far. Okay, there's kind of something which I do with my playing which makes playing licks like that for me a little bit easier, and it's the ability to sort of like pull off before moving to the next string. So the picking for this will be something like this. So that pull off on the high E string makes it a lot more fluent for me to continue with the rest of the lick. I can't really explain why that is. I think maybe it's just because I'm not tripping over myself playing an upstroke before going to a downstroke on the B string, which in this particular sequence would probably trip me up. Now, I can't explain to you why that doesn't happen between the B and the G string. It's just one of those weird phenomenons that happens in my playing, and I think over time I've figured out certain things which help me move in certain parts of the guitar that don't really apply to other parts, even though I'm probably playing the same thing. But for me, in that particular lick, that particular group of notes, having that accent and pull off from the 12th fret to the 9th fret allows me to just continue picking through the rest of the lick. I mean, if you notice, my hand kind of pops out when I interesting as well, if I isolate that and I don't move to the B string, my hand naturally wants to pick the last note, but as I'm doing it moving to the B string, I don't have any problems with omitting that note. That's probably how that's normally how I practice. It's just repeating the lick over and over again. So, you know, girlfriend or mum or whatever, you know, when I was living at home anyway, and just drive them mad constantly, you know. But that's what you have to do. You kind of keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you start to feel where that problem is, and then you can isolate it, deal with it, and then move on. So that would be my kind of practice, would not be to play whole licks, it's just like little sections of bits, you know, because if I can play everything else all right, then obviously it doesn't need as much practice as the problem that I'm having. Anyway, stop waffling on, I'll continue with this lick. I'll play that a bit faster just so I can get the rhythm. I think, yeah, it kind of starts going into more legato territory as it kind of moves down. I think the same thing happens on the G string as on the high E string. So that kind of thing. Again, slow. So again, that kind of towards the end is more of a feel thing rather than a predetermined, right, that's what I'm going to do. So if I feel like my left hand's speeding up more than my right hand, I'll just kind of add some legato notes in there. In which case I'll only play 2 picks and then a pull off. So I'll have so that's sometimes how I approach legato playing, is I'll pick the first 2 notes and then hammer on or pull off the 3rd note. Because it's less hassle doing that than it is trying to pick every note, unless you're quite a fluid economy picker, whereas licks like that you can pick everything and feel quite confident. So yeah, with legato technique especially, I'll probably just pick the first note, hammer on the next 2, and then when I move to the next string I'll have like an up down, up down, up down, up down, and then the 3rd note will just be my left hand. Like that. And then when I come back down, it'll be pick the first 2 notes and then pull off to the last one. And then probably pick the last 3. So it's a good way of playing legato. I mean, most people would probably just pick the string once, hammer on twice, pick once, hammer on twice, but and do that and then pull off twice coming down. But for I have to do everything different just because my hands just don't seem to work the same as a lot of other people's. But I think that kind of does work in my favour a little bit, because I understand how my hands work, and I think that's kind of half the battle with a lot of these things. So yeah, that pentatonic lick again, just as a recap. I mean, this will be tabbed anyway, so if you're struggling with my sort of ramblings on with the lesson, you have got the PDF as well. It will show you the pick strokes, where the hand goes and that. I guess what I wanted to do is sort of talk you through how my brain is trying to process what is happening on the guitar, rather than going, here's the exact lick, play it like this. Because you might have your own approach to how you would want to play something like that. So yeah, slow tempo and then up to speed.